Let's make a low budget but awesome terrarium, hopefully. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, my name is Rose, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm in my greenhouse making a low budget, easy to find stuff terrarium. Just start and create something small. Maybe it's a cloche, maybe it's a little box. We'll talk about all of that. Let's just get started. The main thing you need to build a terrarium is of course the terrarium itself. And you can think an actual terrarium is quite expensive, which they can be, but you can use so many things as terrariums. For example, I have used a big vase and put a little plastic thingy over top. This is how easy it can be. You can use a little food container. If you want to go a little bit bigger, I have actually noticed that secondhand aquariums are much more easy to find and cheaper than secondhand terrariums. And sometimes even the aquarium light, which is not very bright, is actually the perfect amount of brightness for our lower light plants. Today we're going to be working with this little box. It is a glass box from Jysk. I don't know if they have that in your country. It is sold as a decorative box and it was about 15 euros. It has a lid that can open. I've tried before to make this waterproof. I don't know if you can see the silicone on here, but that didn't work. It's still leaking water. So my solution has been to put a little tray underneath. So whenever it leaks onto the tray and not my shelves. Okay, have you found your vessel? It can be anything. Just grab something that is glass or see-through and hopefully waterproof. The second thing then is the drainage layer. At the bottom we always want to have something where the excess water can drip to. In simple projects like this, I like to use leca balls, about this much of a layer, depending on the vessel of course. If it's a very, very small vessel, you can have a much smaller drainage layer. Remember, by the way, I am no expert in this. This is just to get you started in a cheap and easy way, because we all can find a vessel, some leca balls, and the rest of the ingredients as well. So the next step is the soil layer. And I started working with Soil Ninja, who are a UK brand of amazing soil blends and soil ingredients. So this is their terrarium mix. This is not sponsored, by the way, but I do have an affiliate code with them. If you want to try it, you can use my code PLANTWITHROSE for a discount. Before Soil Ninja, I actually used to mix my own soil, so you don't have to buy any of this. If you have it, some activated charcoal, which is not always easy to find, but there are some web shops that offer it. I found some on orchids.nl sometimes, and Soil Ninja also offer activated charcoal bags. And I've also been adding worm castings into most of my soil mixes because I noticed that my plants are growing really well on it. It's a type of fertilizer. So if you have a bit of extra cash, you can spend it on these. Activated charcoal actually helps to prevent any mold and rot and stuff from what I know. And the worm castings help your plants to grow. If I had to pick and I don't have a lot of money, I would pick the activated charcoal because it actually works for a long time in your terrarium, and you can use a regular fertilizer if you don't have money for this. But this soil blend already has all of that inside, so we're just gonna pour some in. I like to make it a little bit angled so that the front is a little bit lower and the back is a little bit higher. From my previous projects, I've learned that you probably need a little bit more soil than you think, so I'm just gonna pour all of this in. The last time that I created this box, I actually did a few things wrong. I mainly planted plants that were growing way too fast, like climbers, so they were climbing up the back. This is the back wall. And I had a moss wall in here that was not smart because it was only this high. The next step is to select a few plants that you want to plant in here. This is my variegated domesticum, which has been struggling. It's been growing fully yellow leaves for a while. Then I have this Maranta, which I bought for a different project. I love Maranta. This is just a common one, very cheap, €2.50, Fascinator tricolor. It brings a nice pop of pink in there. Then also bought for that other project is this Micans. Look at that. I haven't had a successful Micans in a while. It's been in here for my holiday and you can see how happy the roots were in the higher humidity. Of course, we're gonna also put in some Selaginella because that is my favorite plant. This is Selaginella uncinata, the rainbow moss. Yesterday at the plant market, I just got this Labicea, which is a beautiful terrarium plant. If you ever have chance to try and grow Labicea, they're incredible. They're quite slow growing. Let me see if I can get it out. This one is a little bit angled at the stem, but I think it's going to be good once it sets in here, then it can anchor into the soil here. And then lastly, I've been propagating some begonia from leaf cuttings, Begonia chloronura. They actually, oh, why is that so light? That's a dead leaf. And they actually grow quite big. I've seen a huge one at a greenhouse, but I think for now it will look quite cute in there. Also, that saves me space because I have so many of these on my shelves. Same thing for this one. This is a little begonia raja, I think. It's a very adorable begonia that can probably get a little bit bigger than this. I have another one. This is like a backup plant. I have a lot of this begonia, which was a leaf cutting. I got so many plants from that one leaf cutting. I have another one here that we're going to pop in. These do really well in lower light, so it's okay if they hide a little bit behind the other plants. Basically, I've just selected a bunch of plants that I have sitting around, and we'll see which ones actually go in. But it's nice to have options. So once you start doing this, have a bunch of plants around you and then decide in the moment where you want to plant in. These are some begonias I've been growing in water. This is Begonia amphioxus. This is Begonia jiwui. And then this stick here, this I think is a stick of Begonia negrosensis. These are all rooted already, so that's good. And the main thing with this planting part is trying to arrange it in a way that looks nice. So I think this, since it's growing in this direction, I'm going to plant it a little bit in one of the corners, was my idea. And then the labicea in the other corner. For me, it's all about experimenting. And like I said, I'm no expert. I'm just still experimenting, playing around with things and seeing how it goes. Very curious to see how this will do because I've only ever grown these so far in my big terrarium where they do great. They like things humid, so I'm going to try and keep this thing a little bit more humid. The soil right now is very, very dry, but I'm going to water it thoroughly. So this is going to lean back a little bit so it can root down there, hopefully. Start with the biggest plants and then end with the detail plants. The Maranta has a very thick soil that I'm going to remove a little bit. Don't want to mess up that perfect terrarium mix too much. So this can go maybe in the front corner. I don't know. I'm just playing around. Oh, in the middle. Okay, we're going in the middle. Micans. Let's pop that in. Ooh, that's nicely rooted. Some plants, of course, grow a lot faster than others. This might root and grow so fast that it takes over the terrarium. That is something to keep in mind. But also you can experiment with that. Like you can cut it back or pull plants out if it doesn't feel right. You don't have to always do it right the first time. Like it doesn't have to be perfect at all. Begonias, begonias, begonias. I'm trying to make the colors a little bit different because here it's the brown of the labicea and then on this side is more bright. And I have a lot of brownish begonias, so I'm going to plant them on that side and the colorful other ones on this side. How about in the front here, a little chloronura? We have a lot of space here still. Hey, editing Rose. Sorry, some of this footage is not in focus. I was struggling a little bit with my camera, so sorry about that. Little Raja. And then the Jiwui, Amphioxus, the Negrosensis. I don't know if that's going to do anything, but we're going to pop it in anyway. And then lastly, one of my absolute favorites, the moss. The Selaginella. It's not really a moss. It's like a little fern type thing. I think it's going to go. It had some moss around the base that we're also going to put in and see if we can re-alive. The last step before we close the box is to water it. And I like to use my spray thingy by Gardena because it doesn't overwhelm the plants too much or move the soil too much. I hope you can hear me while I'm spraying. I recommend to water it thoroughly until the drainage layer that you hopefully can see has at least a little bit of water standing in it. Then it keeps the humidity nice and high because it sits underneath there and not in the soil, so the soil isn't soaking wet. For my box, unfortunately, I can't do the thing with the drainage layer that I was saying because it is not waterproof, so the water comes out. But I've made sure that most of the soil looks nice and moist, so I hope it is wet enough. One thing to keep in mind, by the way, mine might look pretty empty, but all the plants are gonna grow, hopefully, or several of them, so then it's gonna fill in a lot more. So you don't have to make it look like a fully grown terrarium just yet. It can look a little bit bare. My glasses are sliding off. So the total cost of this terrarium, I'm basically reusing all the things. So if you can reuse stuff or go to the secondhand shop as well, they often have nice vases and boxes and glass vessels, as we call them. 15 euros for the thing that I got as a gift, by the way. Some cost of the leckables and the soil. If you have it, a little bit of money for the activated charcoal and then the plants. And you can always, of course, buy new plants, which is fun, but you can always take cuttings of other plants that you already have and pop those in and see how they go. All in all, 20 euros, maybe more, depending on what you want, of course. So You can make it as fun and expensive as you want, or as cheap as you can. A quick tour of the box before we go. Micans, Amaranta. In this corner we have the philodendron. It's a little bit overlit because the sun has come out. In the front here we have begonias. Actually we have a lot of begonias everywhere. Can you tell I like them a lot? Here's the Jiwui there, the light one. And then the Selaginella, beautiful, in front of the Labicea. So that is the look for now. Very curious to see how it will look in a few weeks and months. Future Rose here. Of course you're getting an update because it's been about 3.5 weeks and you can see how much the plants have grown. I did add a bit more live moss once I got it, so it's looking nice and green at the bottom there. I think it's actually growing quite nicely. Let's start over here like we did in the beginning. I'm filming this with my phone because I noticed my camera does not like to focus on what I wanted to focus on, so sorry about that before. As you can see, this Domesticum variegata is actually fully yellow again, so I might have to chop it back further. But it is growing and it's sizing up. I popped some moss down here that's also growing. My experience with moss, it's growing the best on top of wet soil. So I'm trying to keep the soil in here a little bit wet, and that's working. The Maranta, it's hard to see with the shade, but is making a new leaf there. The Micans is also growing a lot, and like I said, this is a fast grower, so it's actually overtaking. You can see it's rooting on top of all the leaves, which might become an issue, but for now it's okay, I think. Then in the front here is that Chloronura. It's made a new leaf already, it's looking good. Sometimes begonia need a little bit of adjusting time, but these actually look pretty good. I'm breaking off stuff, hold on. Okay. Begonia Taiyuan Kwang also looks okay. I don't see any new growth yet, but so far so good. Down here I planted that Amphioxus, and that is actually growing a new leaf. Look at that. I actually broke this off while I was planting it. You couldn't see because it wasn't in focus, so sorry about that. But now it's growing. Back here is Begonia Raja that also made a new leaf. It's looking really good. Oh, and there's a baby leaf as well in there. Very nice. And lots of Micans roots everywhere. Yeah, I might have to pull this out. We will see. In the front here, another Taiyuan Kwang. I really love this begonia. It gets a blue sheen when it gets less light. And it gets the dots that I was talking about before. So it's starting to get those on the new leaf there. This one is Begonia Jiwui. Hasn't made a new... Oh, it has made a new leaf, but lower down. Can you see there? Baby leaf. Yay! The Selaginella is also growing really nicely. As you can see, it's going all over the place, which is exactly what I wanted. Look at that beautiful blue color. I love it in combination with the Labicea as well. I don't see any new growth on the Labicea yet, or maybe this one is new. I'll have to see when I'm back at my computer editing. But this is how Labicea grow. You can see the little point of the new leaf there. And this is the overview. It's already looking a lot more green and lush. And generally, I'm really happy with the results. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe below if you haven't already. And let me know in the comments how you get on with building your own tank. If you want to, of course. No pressure. Thank you so much for being here, friends. And I'll see you next week. Bye!